Have you seen the back wrap aprons that have become so popular over the last couple of years? I know I sure have, and every time I see one, I think, I've got to make one of those. So today I am, and I'm going to take you along on the journey with me. Hi, my name is Cindy. I'm with Reinvented Delaware, and we love to repurpose and reinvent all sorts of home decor and furniture. And we also like to make fun projects out of some unexpected materials. That's what we're doing today. I hope you enjoy this video. Here's a quick look at the pattern that I purchased from Etsy. I printed off all the pages and assembled them on my sewing room floor. I purchased my pattern from an Etsy shop, and I'm going to link it below so that you can see the exact same pattern. Now, when you purchase these types of patterns, it's a downloadable item. You download it, you save it, and then you use your own printer to print it off. Mine came in 24 sheets of paper. I printed off all 24 sheets, and then I assembled them according to the maker's instructions. It was very easy, not a problem at all. Once that was all done, I realized that I'd purchased lots of sizes all on the same pattern, which was wonderful. I wanted to make a size medium, and in order to do that, I needed to trace off just the size medium. And here's a product that I love to use. I've used this for years and years to trace off different patterns for different reasons. This product is called Do So. It's a clear, it's not clear completely, it's transparent. You can see right through it. And it's wonderful because you can see the pattern behind this, and then you can use a marker to make all the necessary markings on the pattern that you need to make. I traced all of the pattern pieces onto the Do So and then pinned them to the fabric and cut all the pieces out. Along the top piece of the pocket section, I just used the selvage edge of the drop cloth. That way I don't have to hem it. I used my serger to put a clean finish on all of the edges. If you don't have a serger, you can use pinking shears, or you could use the zigzag stitch on your regular sewing machine. I'm going to stitch the pocket on first, and I wanted to prepare the pocket piece before I attached it. So I ironed the 3 sides of the pocket, the 2 sides, and then the bottom edge. The top edge I don't need to worry about because I used the selvage to finish off that edge. At the top edge of this pocket, I did a little trick so that I don't have any of this happening on the other side. I don't want that edge to show. So what I did was I opened up, after I pressed down my 1/2 inch, I opened it up and I did a little miter fold and then folded it back in and gave it a good press. I used my pin marks from the pattern piece for the pocket placement. The 2 pins are where the top 2 corners of the pocket are going to match. I put a little crease in the front pocket because I'm also going to stitch down the center of it, really creating 2 pockets. The crease is a good way to have a straight line to stitch. I pinned it on and then I took it over to the machine. I used a top stitch to attach the pocket to the front of the apron, and I just used the edge of my presser foot as my guideline. I stitched around the 3 sides, and then I went up back through the middle to create those 2 pockets. Next, we're going to attach the front facing to the front of the apron around the neckline. So I lay them right sides together, line up the edges best I can, and then I give it a quick little press, and then a few pins, and then I head over to the sewing machine. The stitching around a curve is pretty easy. You just have to take your time, one stitch at a time, slow your machine down, and before you know it, you're around that curve. Keep the edges lined up and remove the pins before you get to the needle on the sewing machine. I decided to understitch the curved edge of the neckline. So to do that, I folded the seam allowance towards the facing, and then from the top side, I top stitched all the way around through the facing and making sure that I caught the seam allowance from the underside. When you're doing this, make sure that you keep that nice and opened up. Don't create any folds because it won't lay the way that you want it to lay. I go all the way around the curve. I took my time, one little section at a time, and before you know it, I'm all done. Here's a close-up of the understitching. All the stitching is going to be on the inside and you won't even see it, and it'll hold that seam allowance down nice and snug. Next, we'll stitch the side seams and the shoulder seams. Line up the two side seams of the front and the back, and then cross over one shoulder of the back to the other shoulder of the front. Do the same with the other one. And by the way, I made the mistake of connecting the wrong shoulder, so it did not turn out well. To compensate for the front seam that was already finished in the previous step, I had to fold over a little of the excess on the back pattern piece. You'll see what I mean in the next step. Board. What I did was on the back piece, I need to compensate because this is a raw edge and this is the finished edge of the front. So in order to do that, I'm going to take the back piece and fold it back just a little bit, and then I'm going to line up those two edges just like that, and you'll never know once it's all top stitched down. Once I get this all pressed and opened up, that'll be the finished look for that side. I stitch the two side seams together, and then I head over to the iron. There I clip all the threads, and I iron the seam toward the back. For the shoulder seams, I continue to fold down the rest of that edge, and then I cut away the excess so that there wasn't so much bulk. Then I ironed the seam towards the back. This is what it looks like close up. This is the front section. This is the back. There's the part I just folded down, and I've got the seam going towards the back, and from the front you can see how nice that's going to look. And I ironed the entire edge of the apron to create the hemline. When you're going around the curves, just take your time and work in some of the ease. You can see that I'm doing that there with the steam of the iron. I go around all the edges, around the armholes and around the whole outside edge, and I turned it up about a half of an inch, and this would create a nice hem. You can see here, this is the facing and this is the front. Remember, we stitched around the neckline right here. So if I were to just fold in these two sections like this to make that hem all the way around, it's going to be a little thick and a little bulky. So I think what I've decided to do is cut off some of the extra from the facing only. So I've got that lifted up. You can see I'm just basically cutting off that serged edge. I only want to cut off a little bit. Basically what this is going to do is just tuck inside the folded section that I do for the hem. And I'm only cutting through the facing layer. Let's reduce a little bit of that bulk too. Okay, so now when I turn this, when I fold this in, that edge, as I fold this in, is going to enclose that raw edge that we just cut. See how that's enclosed inside that seam, that folded edge. All right. I pinned along the edge where the front facing was so that it would stay nice and tucked in. I don't want that front facing to pop out while I'm stitching. Okay, so I've got all of the seams ironed down. I've pinned the areas where the facing meets the front. I've gone all around the armholes and the whole bottom of it. It's all ironed and pressed. Now I'm headed to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around all those areas. I used the edge of my presser foot as my guide for my stitching around the whole hem, around the outside edge and the armholes. All of the edges, you see that? That looks so good. Ironing, it really does help to accomplish this final look. So as I was stitching around, I realized I had forgotten to top stitch the side seams. That's what this is. I'm going to go ahead and top stitch next to this side seam. And here I am trying on the little apron. Isn't it so cute? It's a little complicated to put on, but once you put it on once or twice, you get the hang of it. It's nice and loose fitting, those nice deep pockets. I'm going to get a lot of use out of this apron. And there you have it, an easy wrap apron. All you need is a drop cloth, some scissors, couple of seams, and a few hours of time, and you could make one of these for yourself. They would make great gifts, by the way, and there's lots of uses for them. Cooking, obviously, or maybe gardening. You've got that pocket, you could keep the tools right there. I think mostly what I'm going to use mine for is out in the workshop, with painting all those projects that we love to paint. This is going to help to protect my clothes. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you have any questions about this project, please ask in the comments below. And while you're there, be sure to hit subscribe and join our journey. Thanks again, and I'll see you.